got the call he'd been waiting for.
Bethany,
Hello. And there she is.
It's lovely to meet you.
14-year-old Bethany Neville.
Wow, finally you're home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you look well, which is a huge relief.
Thank you.
You feel good?
Yeah.
It's nice to see your dad.
Yeah.
Have you had a nice little time with him?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you look
Been
happy.
great, yeah. Reconnecting. She's my old Beth.
Gosh, Bethany, 3 to 4 months is a long time for a 13, just turned 14-year-old to be away. How did you survive?
I don't know, just made sure, I was looked after and everything, so it was alright.
So walk us back through the day you decided to leave.
I wasn't the best, I just couldn't do it anymore. Me and my mum had a fight the night before. I couldn't handle people being mean to me at school, and just felt like no one cared about me and everything, so I was just don't want to do this anymore.
Were you scared?
Very.
Was there any time in that 4 months that you thought you should ring your parents?
I did think about it quite a bit, but I just thought, just for now, because I still wasn't feeling better. I did plan to come home though, just once everything felt alright in my head.
Am I right in saying that you had to play cat and mouse with the police for a few months there?
Basically.
What was that like?
Very scary. Whenever the police were very close, I was like, oh God, just have to hide, or just for now. Yeah, I feel bad and everything for being such a nuisance and everything, but just didn't want to go home yet, couldn't do it.
Did you ever think something terrible could happen?
Well, for the first month, I was like, something could happen. But then, once I went with Josh, I was like, I think I'll be fine. I'm safe here, he'll look after me, and I trust him very much.
So for the last few months, you were staying with your friend Josh. Did your parents know about him before you left?
My mum had heard about him and met him once. My dad knew about him and everything, and met him quite a few times, and Dad was knew Josh quite well.
Some people would think being 14 is a bit young to be in a relationship. What would you say to them?
Well, we're just friends, so I think it's alright. My dad's alright with it and everything.
A lot of people have been really worried about you. When did you find out in the 4 months that so many people cared about you? And how did it make you feel?
More scared, because it was more people knew about me then, so more people could report me to the police and stuff. But it kind of made me happy in the sense that people care. Even strangers I've never even met before.
Bethany may be reunited with her dad, but there's a lot of talking to do. It's one emotional step at a time.
What was it like at that moment, the first time you turned the doorknob and went into the room and saw Bethany?
I opened the door and I seen Beth sitting there, and you could tell she was crying, and the first thing I did was just hug her, and I broke into tears myself. So I think it was just an overwhelming sense of relief, in essence, that we'd reconnected at last, after so long. I wouldn't wish it on anyone that they'd go through this,
What are you looking forward to doing together?
Starting a new life, really, looking at schools in the area, and just starting a new life for Beth, and making sure that she's happy in her new life, and being positive about things,
Is there something you'd like to say to parents out there who may have a teenager like you who feels frustrated and alone?
Just be there for them. Even if they're a teenager who's doesn't want to talk to their parents because that's not cool or something, just be there for them, and just if they're upset or stuff, just try and help them the best you can.
Despite the happy reunion, there are still many fences to be mended between Bethany and her family. As you'd expect, Bethany's mum, Tracy, continues to experience a swirling range of emotions. We look now at how the story unfolded for her in Kiama and for the dogged detective handling the case. When we first met Tracy, she was a very distraught mother. Bethany had been gone 4 long months.
Just let someone know that you're safe. That's what I need to know, is you're safe.
Detective Sergeant Paul Connery of Kiama Police led the investigation to find Bethany.
The breakthrough came when someone walked into their local police station.
I knew straight away where the source came from, that there was good information and it was information that fitted what I thought was a possible scenario.
Welcome back. Now to the story of two heartbroken parents.
It made it clear to me that she'd seen quite a bit of the Wanted TV show and made her want to come forward.
And I got the phone call from the detective. He told me to sit down and said they actually had Bethany. And I just burst into tears. I was hysterical. My friends all coming in and hugging.
Their emotions, they were obviously overwhelmed. They were happy, they were sad, I suppose, and they were cranky and all on the same emotion.
She's still a bit angry at me and everything, and that's okay. I can handle all that as long as she's safe. And I'm just so grateful and so relieved and so happy that she is safe.
But what doesn't sit comfortably is that Bethany stayed with a 21-year-old male.
Irrespective of this boy, who I am very angry about, I've got to pull back, which is hard for me as a mum. As long as Bethy's kept safe, she gets the support and the love and the help that she needs. That's what I've got to do.
As far as police are concerned, no crime has been committed.
We've interviewed Bethany and there's been no offences disclosed. A missing person is not an offence. A missing person is an inquiry. And at this point, there's no criminal offence that's been detected, so there'll be no charges laid.
Tracy's only comfort now is that Bethany is alive and well.
That I've had to let my little girl go now. She's not here anymore. In the sense that the dynamics of that has just changed. So it's a whole different ball game now. But I haven't had a chance to ease into it. It's just been thrown at me. And that's all I can do. There's not a lot except to love her.
Well, we wish the Neville family all the very best at this emotional time, and those sentiments are echoed in your tweets. One from Nicole Boldy, who says, "That's great news. Her mum must be stoked to know for sure." Well, Nicole, that's true. The whole family is enormously relieved, and we're pretty stoked too. Matt?
Sensational news for our family. Thanks very much, Sandra. And thanks again for all your many calls to Crime Stoppers with leads on Bethany Neville. It is Missing Persons Week, and Bethany's case is a very timely reminder of just how vital your information can be. Now to the updates from last week, and South Australian Police will begin searching a fourth mine shaft tomorrow in Coober Pedy for the remains of 16-year-old Karen Williams. They hope to find bones that will connect a prime suspect to her murder. Now, we broke the news on the escape of sex offender Bradley Wilcott from a Perth prison. He has since been arrested and is now back behind bars. Crime Stoppers received many calls about this man who's wanted over a number of sex attacks in Sydney. He is still on the run though, and police need your help. Queensland detectives are investigating new lines of inquiry in the stabbing murder of 23-year-old Shandy Blackburn. Has anyone seen Shandy's missing handbag? And finally, there were calls from right round Australia on the hunt for convicted WA bank robber Ross O'Connell. New South Wales police are investigating some particularly strong leads. So let's hope, Sandra, that those calls continue.
Indeed. Thanks, Matt. Next up, another example of the dangerous mix of alcohol and violence. Here's former Detective Superintendent Terry Dalton. Terry?
Sandra, we're off to a Perth pub in Baldivis. It's AFL Grand Final day last year. Everyone's enjoying themselves, but keep your eye on the group at the top of the screen. One bloke pulls down another man's sunglasses. He takes offence and moments later knocks him out cold with a big right hook. The attacker is led away. Police have spoken with all the witnesses, but none can identify the man who laid the punch. Maybe you can. Police believe the man may live in Queensland. The victim suffered a broken jaw and bleeding on the brain. Thankfully, he's now okay. In Sydney, police want to speak with this man, seen helping a blind woman into a lift at Ashfield train station on the 17th of July. Shortly after the doors close, the man starts talking to the 23-year-old woman. Minutes later, he walks through a ticket barrier and eventually onto a train. The woman later told police she had been indecently assaulted. Here he is again. Police believe he could help them with their inquiries.
Thank you, Terry. Stay with us. Next up on Wanted.
Who gunned down Les Samba? Now his daughter's appeal to find the killer.
It's a really large reward, and I want someone to come forward and take that reward.
And later, can you help end this father's heartbreak?
In the end, it's basically made my life fall apart. I let it sort of get on top of me and just destroy everything, yeah.
You're with Wanted. And tonight, Homicide Squad detectives in Melbourne are making a special appeal for help. In February 2011, popular racing identity Les Samba was gunned down on a busy Melbourne road. Despite a $1 million reward, the killer is still on the loose. Tonight, we reveal an exclusive new lead, plus an image of the murderer. Matt Doran investigates.
was getting ready for work. My phone rang. I went and picked it up, and my brother was just yelling, saying, "Dad's dead, he's been shot." And I just remember screaming, saying, "No." And just shaking and screaming.
So ended the life of Les Samba. 2 years on, the impact of his murder is still very much alive.
I don't really understand how someone could think that they have the right to take someone else's life, no matter what they supposedly think Dad's done to upset them. How could he possibly deserve this?
Les was in town to inspect horses at the Inglis yearling sales. He was staying at the Crown Metropole Hotel for that weekend.
These are CCTV images of Les Samba at the Crown Metropole before he left. And this is the very last image of Les Samba alive. For reasons still unknown to detectives, Les Samba left his hotel room here at the Crown Metropole and travelled to Middle Park. 28 minutes later, Les Samba would be dead.
He parks his car in Beaconsfield Parade near Langridge Street. At around about 9:35 p.m, residents hear a series of shots. Les collapsed onto the road. The offender then caught up to him and fired at least one more shot. Witnesses observed the offender run off towards Langridge Street, and that was the last he was seen.
Former South Australian trainer Les Samba gunned down in cold blood on Sunday night. So far, no murder weapon has been recovered, and the shooter remains at large.
With her father's murder all over the news, the family then faced an unimaginable ordeal.
Mum and I will never forget that moment. And, you know, they pull the sheet back and you have to identify him, and we spent some time with him there, talking to him, and he was so cold to touch.
There have been some sustained reports in the media that Les might have had some corrupt links to the racing industry. What relevance does that have to this investigation?
There is no evidence to indicate that Les Samba was involved in any kind of corrupt activity within the racing industry.
Les Samba first came to prominence in the 1969 Melbourne Cup as the strapper for Rain Lover.
Throughout my childhood, he was a horse trainer and he was working 7 days a week. But he always found time to spend with my brother and I and my mum. And he was just a real hard worker, and he always put us children first. He made sure we both had, a good education, and he just wanted me to try and go to university and have the opportunities that he didn't have. It was hard for us not to be involved in horses. It was a passion we both shared, and we would talk about horses. One of the last times I saw him was we were at the Gold Coast Magic Millions spending time together.
Racing was a big part of their lives. Victoria was at one stage married to controversial jockey Danny Nikolic. Samba himself became a trainer and owner. He owned horses with people from all walks of life, including Ron Medich, who's now facing charges over the murder of Michael McGurk. Coming back here in the cold light of day, Beaconsfield Parade in Bayside Middle Park just doesn't seem the place you'd pick to arrange a murder. It's a 4-lane main street and plenty of houses, big picture windows, and of course, plenty of potential witnesses. But like so much about Les Samba's death, there's just a lot that doesn't make sense. Not to police, not to his friends, and not to his family.
There were a significant number of people in the area at the time. Some stopped, some kept going.
There were a number of witnesses then to that fatal shot.
That's correct. The offender is described as general height, general build. The most significant thing that most witnesses have described is that the offender had a long blonde hair.
So what evidence do police have to go on? Police have created these identikits of the man they're looking for. He's of medium build and height, but the distinguishing feature is his hair. Now, police have released exclusive new pictures of 2 other men they believe may be able to help in the investigation. They were observed talking to Les Samba at the Crown Metropole earlier that night.
We don't think there's anything sinister in that. We haven't been able to identify those 2 individuals, so if we could get them identified so that we could speak to them, that would be good.
The reward for information on Les Samba's murder is among the highest on offer in Australia.
The reward is up to $1 million. It's a life-changing sum of money for most people, so it would certainly go a long way to starting a new life.
My family and I would be really, really grateful if they just please came forward and shared whatever information they have, even if they think the information might not be significant. Perhaps it will be. I could speak for myself and my brother and my mum that we all often think about Dad's final moments, how terrified he was. You know, was he in a lot of pain? It's just horrendous.
So, Sandra, just so important that there are some answers for the family here to help. $1 million award, that is a huge financial incentive, obviously, but there is another big incentive being offered in this case. It's being offered by the Department of Public Prosecutions. They are considering an indemnity here. Now, in a statement from them this afternoon, they've said that they will consider an indemnification from prosecution, any person who might be able to help identify the principal offender or offenders in the murder of Les Samba. So that's a big pledge from the DPP, and I think that could prove a big difference.
Vital new clues then tonight. We have the $1 million reward. You've just given us details on the indemnity. And in tonight's story, you also refer to this new security vision of two men police want to interview.
This is quite important, this security vision, Sandra. It was captured at the Crown Complex. We can see the men's faces there quite clearly. They met with Les Samba on the night of his murder, just a few hours before he was killed. I want to stress they are not suspects. Police just want to speak to them about what they know about his movements that night, about his state of mind that night as well, and they might be able to assist with the investigation there too. But ultimately, having spoken to Victoria, having spoken to this family, a crime of this nature tears any family apart, Sandra, quite obviously, but they live with this day in, day out, the memories, the images from that particular night, and few things are more important to them right now than seeing the killer locked up.
No doubt. Critical new clues tonight. Let's hope it delivers some leads to police. Thanks, Matt.
Thanks.
If you have any information on the Les Samba murder or any of our cases tonight, don't forget to please contact Crime Stoppers. There are scores of operators around Australia ready to take your calls right now. A reminder, you can report online and you can remain anonymous. Still to come on Wanted. Our forensic scientist, Dr. Xanthi Mallet, on the trail of a bizarre murder mystery.
I believe once we identify the tattoo, the source of the tattoo, then we will start the investigation.
But next, a mother is killed and her daughter vanishes. Can you help find Melissa Trussell?
I get up in the morning, look in the mirror, and just regret what I said. And I got no way of taking it back.
A mother murdered, her daughter still missing. It's a mystery that's baffled South Australian police for 13 years. Tonight, an emotional appeal from a father who says not knowing what happened to his daughter is tearing his life apart. Neil Mercer investigates the disturbing case of Melissa Trussell.
My last words were not to call me, not have contact with me, and I never wanted to see her again.
Real shock. That was the worst Mother's Day I'd had.
It's basically made my life fall apart. I let it sort of get on top of me and just destroy everything, yeah.
The Trussells are one big happy family. There's Dad, Barry Trussell, wife Leanne, the boys, Anthony, Hamish, TJ and Wade, and of course the girls, Melissa and her little sister, Kayla.
She was like my idol. Being so young, I used to follow her everywhere when I could, and we were completely inseparable. She was just happy and always having fun and always smiling. I absolutely adored her. She was like everything to me when I was little.
Oh, it was great, yeah. Yeah, we had a big family. There was 6 kids. And it's just marvellous how many people you can fit into a Falcon station wagon.
All in all, one big happy family. But at the age of 13, Melissa decided she wanted to go to high school here in Adelaide and to be with her biological mum, Rosemary. Melissa's dad, Barry, did not want her to go. He had an argument with his strong-willed daughter.
I wasn't too impressed with her wanting to come to Adelaide and be up here with her mum after the previous mishaps with her mum and what had gone on. And my last words pretty harshly were not to call me, not have contact with me, and I never wanted to see her again. Words which I think of every day.
Do you regret saying those words?
Every day. I get up in the morning, look in the mirror, and just regret what I said. And I got no way of taking it back. And like I said, I regret it every day of my life.
Melissa went to school and lived with her biological mum, Rosemary Brown, for a couple of years. Quite coincidentally, they appeared on television after a siege at a caravan park where they were then staying. It was March 2000. These are the last known pictures of the two women. Just a couple of months later, on May 13, Rosemary and Melissa were seen leaving a caravan parked in a friend's driveway in a northern Adelaide suburb. It was 2:30 a.m.
The last person to see them was an associate of Rosemary's. This particular person owned a caravan that Melissa and Rosemary had been staying in at that time at the address. They had been living in the caravan with this particular person.
It begs the question, where on earth were they going at that time of the morning? Had they had a fight? Were they going to meet someone? 13 years down the track, those questions and a lot more remain unanswered.
It was shock. Like Barry got the phone call. That was the worst Mother's Day I'd had, because it was Mother's Day 2000 that she disappeared.
As it turned out, Rosemary's handbag had been found on the day she disappeared.
Some 10 days after it was found, a person watching the news saw a media release that the police had done in relation to the disappearance of both the women. She recognised that the names corresponded to the names of identification in the bag, and she contacted police.
With the discovery of the handbag, Major Crime Squad detectives joined the search for Rosemary and Melissa. 7 weeks after she disappeared, police discovered Rosemary's fate.
The remains, believed to be those of missing woman Rosemary Brown, were found in mangroves near Torrens Island last night. Two 11-year-old boys made the gruesome discovery. Police believe the body had been in water for over a month. It was recovered by water police.
Rosemary had been murdered. For operational reasons, police won't say how, but it appears she was driven here to Garden Island, an industrial area. Whether she was alive or dead at the time is unknown.
So, Campbell, this is where Rosemary's body was found. Where exactly was it?
So from where we are at Garden Island here, near the car park behind us, about 100 metres into the mangroves, was where Rosemary's body was found.
Is it possible the body drifted in, or do you think she was placed there?
We think it's more likely that Rosemary was placed here. It's quite a remote location, so certainly for her to have walked here from where she was last seen, it's a distance of about 12 kilometres.
So someone has driven her into this spot?
We certainly suspect that based on those circumstances.
Despite an intensive search, there was no trace of Melissa.
I felt relieved in one way, but I felt upset in another. Relieved that she'd been found, thinking, yes, well, we're going to find Melissa as well, but we didn't.
There's a lot of scenarios that could be possible, and it could well be that Melissa may have been able to identify the killer of her mother, and therefore she was killed for that reason also. It may well be that she was a witness to the murder by strangers and may have been killed for that fact.
Melissa wouldn't have given a thought of herself. Would have tried to help her mum. And, you know, even if her mum had told her to run away or something like that, she would have stayed.
I Google her name just hoping that something comes up, hoping to find a photo or a girl that looks like me, to be able to see if she has a family or, you know, just make sure that she's happy. Something that, you know, I would love to happen, but if it doesn't, then I'm not going to let that, you know, hold me down.
My heart tells me I'd love her to be alive, but common sense tells me after this amount of time, 13 years, that she has to be dead. In the end, it's basically made my life fall apart. I let it sort of get on top of me and just destroy everything, yeah. And now I find myself living in the same general area where they went missing, and most days I can see the island where Rose's body was washed up. And, you know, I've got to deal with that every day.
There have been several persons of interest to the investigation interviewed over time, some on more than one occasion, so we'd urge anyone with any information in relation to people that are involved in this matter, urban stories, rumours, myths, we'd urge them to pass them on to police and we can make sure that we investigate it fully.
Somebody out there must know something, and I just pray to God that they'll come forward, like have the decency to come forward and pass on any information that can help at all. It's gone on far too long. I want closure. I want to know one way or the other what happened to my daughter. I mean, I hate things like that. And, you know, I want to get closure so I can get my life on track. Because it's slowly destroying me, sure as anything.
Oh, Neil, anyone watching that couldn't help but be affected by Barry Trussell's heartache. It's so sad.
It is very sad in terms of emotions, Sandra. That's about as raw as it gets, I think. During that interview, Barry just unloaded, I think, 13 years of pent-up anguish, pent-up grief, 13 years of not knowing what's happened to his daughter. It just came flooding out.
Melissa will be 28 now. Do police have any idea what may have happened to her?
Police, well, they know that Rosemary has been murdered. They believe that Melissa might have been with her mother. She's witnessed the mother's killing, and so she too had to be killed.
What about suspects then?
There are suspects, there are persons of interest, as the police will say. They won't identify those people, but they do have people who they are interested in. What they want is for people to come forward, and hopefully Barry's plea tonight might move somebody to come forward with that snippet of information.
Let's hope they're moved enough. Neil Mercer, thank you. And Matt Doran, let's hope Barry Trussell finds some solutions and answers tonight.
Let's hope so. Thanks, Sandra. Stay with us. Next on Wanted. Help our forensic scientist, Dr. Xanthi Mallet, find a name and find a killer.
And we only need one person for something to trigger in their mind and make the phone call.
Solving a murder is almost impossible if you don't know who the victim is. And that's the problem in this very cold case. A man's body is found dumped in suburban bushland in 2009. His skull was shattered, the victim of a brutal murder. Tonight, our forensic scientist, Dr. Xanthi Mallet, investigates how police managed to at least give this man a face. Hopefully, you can help give him a name that could lead to his killer.
It's late 2008, date and time unknown. A vehicle pulls up in the leafy Melbourne suburb of Park Orchards, probably late at night. A body, wrapped in black plastic, is unloaded. It's dumped in a vacant block by a person or persons unknown. Flash forward several weeks.
No worries.
Retired police officer Hans Brocker and his wife Lynn are walking their dog.
We could smell it for a couple of weeks, but we didn't really know where the smell was coming from. And one day the wind was blowing in the right direction and Hans went and had a look.
I've come to meet the Brockers to learn about their gruesome discovery.
I thought it might have been an abandoned dog or somebody had buried the dog. So I came back up the road and I must have said to Lynn, well, we'll get the council to pick it up. And she said, no, I'll go and have a look. She said it could be a body.
I took a stick and unwrapped part of the wrappings that it was in, and I could see the top of what was a leg. I didn't know that that was what it was at the time. I thought it could have still been an animal. But unfortunately, when I got to the toes, I realised it was a person. And I must admit, I got very upset and a bit hysterical.
The Brockers' peaceful neighbourhood is suddenly a crime scene.
Homicide detectives are still trying to identify a man whose remains were found off a dirt track in Park Orchards. He's thought to be an Asian man with shoulder-length dark hair.
The body is brought to Melbourne's Institute of Forensic Medicine, the morgue. He's designated 2909.
I'm here investigating case 2909, the unknown male. He's been here for over 4.5 years. As far as police are concerned, they know nothing about it. So I'm going to do my best to learn everything I can forensically to make sure he doesn't remain 2909 forever.
An autopsy was carried out by forensic pathologist Dr. Heinrich Bauer. He also scanned the skull for signs of injury.
Here we have the image of our mystery man.
Wow. Oh, he's quite fragmented, isn't he?
Yes, this is a CT image of his skull, and you can see there's fractures across the frontal bones and some fractures across the maxilla as well.
This horrendous attack is one of the worst I have ever seen. The scan shows at least 5 injuries. 2 blows cracked the top of his skull like an eggshell. 1 blow shattered his right eye socket. Another cracked the top of his mouth. A 5th blow split the bone in his lower jaw.
Has the time death interval been established?
Yes, he was dead for between 2 weeks and 4 to 5 weeks.
We know 2909 was violently murdered, and that his body was in an advanced state of decomposition when it was found. So what else have we got to go on?
The examination of the scene indicates to us that the body has been moved from somewhere else. There's no house on the vacant block, so the body has to be actually physically placed onto the block.
Senior Sergeant David Snare has been examining 4 pieces of crucial evidence found with the body.
There are 2 earrings. One is a diamond stud, which was in his left ear, and also a hooped diamond earring, also from the left ear.
Are they unusual in any way? Are they going to help solve this?
We can't find any manufacturer of those particular earrings.
Clue number 2, a pair of red shorts.
Board-style shorts. They've got a particular yellow motif on the front.
But they can't be traced to any store in Australia. Clue number 3, a pair of glasses that also can't be linked to any local manufacturer.
As you can see, they're damaged there.
So you don't know when these would have been damaged?
It could have been during the assault, or it could have been damaged afterwards when he's been dumped.
Then there's clue number 4.
Well, one of the things that we've been centring on is the tattoo that the deceased had. It's a very distinctive tattoo of a tiger and an eagle. It covers most of his back, and we're hoping that someone will be able to identify the tattoo. I believe once we identify the tattoo, the source of the tattoo, that then we would start the investigation.
So we've got a large and distinctive tattoo, earrings, glasses and shorts that are also distinctive but can't be traced. There's one other way we can identify the man whose face was extensively disfigured when he was murdered. Police turned to facial reconstruction expert Ron Taylor to try to establish what 2909 looked like.
When this case was presented to you, was it particularly difficult?
Ideally, you would like it intact, but we're using dental wax. It's quite easy to model and place everything back into its correct anatomical position.
As Ron Taylor puts flesh on the bones, he makes another significant discovery.
What struck me straight away was his 2 front teeth. There was a space, they were prominent, one tooth hung down 2 or 3 millimetres more than the other two, so it would have been very obvious. Even when he was relaxed, you still would have seen tooth. Once we've completed the face shape, we then take a digital photograph, and that's relayed to police forensic artists to humanise. I feel quite confident that we should get an idea, and we only need one person for something to trigger in their mind and make the phone call.
So this is what 2909 may have looked like. We don't know his exact age. What we do know for certain, he was brutally murdered.
There's a possibility that he may not have been in Australia for an extended period of time, may not have been an Australian citizen at all. Until we can identify who this person is, we'll have difficulty in finding out why he may have been murdered.
Until someone comes forward to identify 2909, his resting place is here, a fridge in a morgue.
He doesn't deserve to be where he has been for the last 4 years. He deserves to be put at rest properly.
So it's important that we solve this?
It really is important, yes, I think so.
And Xanthi joins us now. Xanthi, this is a reconstruction of the dead man's face.
Yeah, this is the final product, as it were. So a facial reconstruction artist has actually built the soft tissue back onto his skull. And what I really want people to remember about his face is his front teeth. They're very unusual. The right central incisor, the middle tooth, is about 2 or 3 millimetres longer than the others, and people would remember that.
Now, that would be quite obvious. What about the man's injuries?
Oh, well, they're really very extensive, and it's easier actually if I show you on the CT. So what we can see here, ignore on the right of screen the starburst, that's just his earrings, which are metal, responding with a CT scanner itself. In terms of the injuries, we have 2 very extensive blows to the top of his head, a third has come through his right eye socket, a fourth along the top of his mouth, and a fifth has actually completely split his lower jaw. It takes a lot of force to create damage like this.
Now, 4 years in a morgue, no name and still no identity.
We have DNA, we have the dental records, and obviously there's the tattoo, but until we have a name, he's not come up on any international missing persons.